and welcome to the He Doesn't Want a podcast, sponsored by Learners Ross Driving School and Drumbo Park Racecourse. Today I'm here with Joe Donnelly from mental health charity TAMHI. Joe, how are you keeping?
I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing well. How are you, Gary?
I'm all right, struggling on with the current lockdown procedures, trying to get on with everything that's going around us. So we'll just get stuck straight into it today because I know you're busy. It's Mental Health Week and you have a lot on. So tell us about you, first of all, your history in football.
Well, I played football for years for St. Pat's in the New Lodge, from under 10 to under 16, and then I had a brief spell at Ardoyne, and then when I went in the adulthood, I played a couple of games for Smallaghy's Old Boys, which was a disaster, and St. Pat's men because I was a goalkeeper. Very good shot stopper, but I couldn't catch a ball, so the halfway laners were Joe's ball back in, blaming on the wind. But football for me was always an escape. It was always something to look forward to and enjoy. And when we played sort of in the sort of 90s and the sort of noughties, you didn't have 3G pitches. You had 20 laps of Alexander Park and you had one ball. And that was, you had the shirt out to do the shot stopping with everybody just taking it in turns of head shots. So it wasn't as sophisticated and as well run as it is now, but it was always an experience where you had that team of 15 people that they were like brothers. You were on the field of play and you were going to war, and then on the Saturday you were going back home getting your big fry and you were happy days. I'm involved now. I coached for a number of years with St. Patrick's FC, so I took my wee team from they were 06s and I took them from they were under 9s right up until under 13s, and then I sort of had a bit of a fallout with a club parents mainly, and all I do now is a wee bit of goalkeeper training with my girls. One's a goalkeeper and I do specific training with her, and it's rewarding. There's no hassle with parents, so I'm still involved in the game. I'm still very passionate about the game, but the one thing that sort of took me away from it is the work I do with TAMHI. So I'm coaching on a regular basis in a school setting. Well, I'm not now at the moment because COVID-19, there is no schools, and I'm working on a regular basis with clubs delivering our program Mental Wealth Games, which teaches mental health through football drills and other sport-based drills. So I've been involved in that, and I just love the whole practical side of it. I love the delivery. I love sort of engaging with people, be it kids or adults. I just love that sort of interaction. So unfortunately, with COVID-19, it's not happening at the minute. But I'm getting ready for coming back, and we'll come back stronger.
It's something that I've always known you for is because of your interaction with the charity and our football club, and you used to do a lot of work with football clubs. How did the charity start, and what was your reasoning behind getting TAMHI up and running?
Well, TAMHI is tackling awareness of mental health issues. It's named after my friend Tommy Tucker McLaughlin, who died by suicide in 2009. So after he died, sort of you see the devastation that it brings to a family, and it was heartbreaking. Sort of we were at a christening on the Sunday and having a brilliant time, like as you do, partying, having fun, enjoying ourselves. And I went in the work on the Monday sort of hungover, as you will be after a Sunday. And I get a phone call from my best friend, Cran, who's Thomas's cousin. And I got told Thomas took his life last night. So that takes you by shock. That, what will I do here? I'm sitting on work. Who do I speak to? Who do I talk to? It was the first time I'd ever heard of anybody I personally knew who had took their life. And straight after that phone call, the exact same phone call came through again from the brother of Thomas, Stephen, and crying his eyeballs out. Did you hear Thomas has died? And so went and spoke to my boss, and my boss was like, look, head home. I just want to put on record I got the bus that day, so it was even more of a drastic journey home because I wasn't driving or anything, because I was under the influence the night before. So a big long bus journey from House of Sport up in Sport and I down into the town, another bus up the Ardoyne where I lived at the time, and then straight down to see the sort of my friends and my family to see what can you do. So it's sort of, you sort of do your bit to support the family from the outside looking in, and it's difficult. You haven't really got much of a role to play. But what happened was the year after, we done a fundraiser for Lighthouse, who are this outstanding North Belfast charity that supported Thomas's family when they lost him. So they specialise in bereavement by suicide. And when we done that football tournament, a lot of teams were coming saying, "Look, Joe, we have a couple of players and a couple of people who are struggling at the minute. Like, who can we turn to? Who can we ask for help and support?" So I was volunteering, doing me fundraisers for Lighthouse, and then connecting people to Lighthouse or PEPs or local services, just letting people know that there is groups out there. And in 2011, what I was finding was that the mental health message wasn't really getting across to clubs. And the reason for it is if you don't know an organisation, there's no trust. You don't know anybody in it. You don't know who you're talking to. You haven't got that relationship in place. But you know the football team, so you're forward.
Yeah.
So the logic was, if I take mental health information, which is readily available, and I stick the Ford logo on it, people from Ford are going to look at that information and go, "Oh, this came from the club. I understand that."
It's personal to me.
So it's personal to you, because the minute you put that on, you play for that. So therefore, it creates a connection. So therefore, I started to work. So I did the first project with St. Pat's in the New Lodge in Carmoney, at FDC. It was a big mental health fun day, big football competition, invited loads of teams, stuck their logo and graphics on it. It was all over Facebook and social media, which was just kicking off then. This is brilliant work by St. Pat's and Carmoney. Look at the stuff they've done around mental health, and it was positive. So it was from there I realised that clubs serve X many people to Ford serve.
We have about 50 players, yeah.
There's coaching staff on top of
coaches
it, about 60.
As well, yeah.
So say 50 people. So how can I connect with 50 people to Ford? Make it about Ford. So get information, create the pathway of support, get the information from Ford to their members, and they'll read it and they'll connect. And that was basic awareness. So 2011 started with 2 clubs. 2014, done a project called 2012. Sorry, a project called Changemakers with 8 clubs in North Belfast.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell the story that we had an independent evaluation where it worked with 6. It didn't work with 1 because I invested so much time in a person and he left the club. So he left the club, the skill set left the club. And there was 1 club where it worked, but it didn't work because all the coaches were on the brew benefits or DLA, so they couldn't declare anything. So
right.
They didn't exist. So you couldn't get feedback from a group that's not there. So it worked. You get told, yep, it was 100%, Joe, but unfortunately we can't do surveys, we can't do interviews, we can't do feedback, so why? Because we're not there. It showed, but it was a capacity, it was a reboxing club. So and I this mental health campaign we rolled out this month, and these 2 weeks, 102 groups are distributing our resources. So it goes to show the reach and connectivity that we've developed over the years. So I get into this because I believe sport, and in particular football, which I'm passionate about, because that's the sport that I've played and the sport that I've sort of coached in. I believe we have an active, engaged audience. We have an audience that wants to be there, and that's key. People go to football because they want to go to football, not because they're forced to. When you do mental health education in schools, kids are getting it almost forced upon them because they're there and they see it as an opportunity. 9 times out of 10, whenever you do a mental health program in a school, kids are sitting like that under their desks, flicking through their phone. You haven't got them fully engaged. When you talk to people in a club and you get the right people in the club sort of saying, look, we're going to champion mental health and emotional well-being, we're going to use our influence to connect with the people that we serve. We've seen the evidence that gets through. I remember the day we met in Costa.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
On the Boucher Road. And you were telling me, without disclosing names, about a couple of issues and people that approached you. Mm-hmm. I'll ask you a question. Why do you think people approach you within a club?
I think as the coach, the first team manager, people see me as the kind of the head of the club. Being that sort of head, then people come to you. It could be as well because you're a coach. I always feel I coach youth football as well as senior football, but they're always seen, even though I'm still think I'm young anyway myself. You're always seen as a father figure, especially younger players coming through, and sometimes then they need somebody to talk to, and they feel if you're the father figure in the club, they can come to you.
And I'd argue that if you take that, what you've just given an example, scale that up across all clubs.
Mm-hmm.
You look up to, you should, in theory, your coach. You should look up to your coach, respect your coach, and in return, your coach should basically be a warm, welcoming, and understanding person. Now, that's not across the board. You do get some coaches who aren't great. They're got issues. But I know a lot of people would rather talk to you than go and talk to a complete random stranger or open up to a counsellor. And that's where I see the relationship the clubs have is to build that relationship with the external agencies and to make the introductions. So almost as the first sort of sounding board that they come talk to someone within the club listen, the person within the club listens, and then be in a position to basically connect and get people to support services, and that's the pathway of support. But if all the coaches are raising awareness, so I serve 15 kids. 15 kids are going to listen to me. They're not going to, perhaps if you're the chairman, listen to you. So up to me to be in a position to get those 15 kids to say, look, if there's anything on your mind, speak to me. I'll then speak to the chairman or the safeguarding officer, and then he'll speak to PIP's Lighthouse, the local support agency, and all of a sudden you've got that nice pathway of support. That's what I'm trying to champion within all the clubs that I work with, and I see it firsthand. I've seen it happen. Loads of clubs are doing it now, and because they're doing it, people feel more confident asking for help. People feel more sort of engaged in mental health awareness because the club's driving it. It's not like a sort of here's a third party organisation. If I go in the Ford and people don't know me, I have to develop that time to get that relationship in place, to get that trust for people that want to speak to Joe. But if I get you, Gary, to drive it within Ford, people want to speak to Gary, you speak to me, I speak to my contacts, I feed it back down, and all of a sudden it's a nice free flowing sort of pathway of support. So that's the type of stuff I'm trying to get in the clubs at the moment.
Yeah, the thing I found, especially the day I met up with you to speak to you on behalf of my club, that all the things I thought I knew, I didn't really know. So, for example, I thought that if you done like a mental health seminar within your club, brought you in, you spoke to people, we've done our bit. But my reason for meeting up with you was because you see so much tragedy around different clubs, and I said at the time I almost felt like we are not doing enough because you're waiting for tragedy to strike before you then try and do something about it. Whereas what we could do now is try and get ahead of it. We don't know. Some people are more obvious and will tell you things. Other people could be hiding things and you don't know. And you're just waiting for that phone call one day that one of your players. And so that was the reason behind my reason behind meeting up with you. And from that, it started then to understand more the process of what we should approach it.
Well, the thing is, when it comes to clubs, I think the biggest thing we need to remove, guys, fear. And you said about sort of you started, you do a workshop, and is that enough? Some clubs will never do workshops. There's a lot of clubs out there that sort of don't have the desire, the want to do anything, and then it might be reactionary. Someone may pass away, and all of a sudden they'll want to do it. Because the big thing all boils down to is capacity. I'm sure you know the vast majority of clubs, it's one or two people do everything.
Yeah.
It's getting those 1 to 2 people to realise that if they take on mental health, it's not going to be a burden. But what people are thinking is you'd say you 50 people, if I have 1 in 5, so what's that, 10 people potentially in your club have a mental health problem. Do I want to be responsible for they may perceive it as a burden? And the answer for the vast majority of coaches and leaders around clubs is no. We don't want, that's scary, that's an intimidating thing. But if you look at the fact that 50 people in your club have mental health, because it's a positive thing, it's there, it's the health of the mind. Do you want to put a program in place or an awareness campaign in place, or as a bare minimum, have a connection to a local agency to signpost to? I don't think that should be intimidating or scare off any clubs. The big issues that we're facing are not, for the vast majority, there's elements within a club, we'll talk about that in a moment, but the vast majority of issues that, like we discussed that day we met, is social issues outside that spill into the club. So for kids, the main issues with kids around mental health within a club setting can be schoolwork and stress and exams and pressure from parents. They tend to be, whenever I've done workshops for the Irish Football Association across Northern Ireland, they tend to be the most prevalent issues. Kids under these big expectations to be a certain type of footballer that they may never be. Mm-hmm. Kids under pressure to succeed in exams and the school pressure associated with that. When you go into socially deprived areas where we operate, like North Belfast, West Belfast, like yourself, the raft of social issues and peer pressure that comes from living in those areas around sort of easy access to drugs, easy access to alcohol, we're saying pertains to peer pressure. So that's happening across the board for young people. Adults tends to basically be financial worries. Gambling, massive issue, particularly in the men's game, where fellas are going out losing £300-400 on a horse or a football bet, and like £300-400 a week's wage, and it has a knock-on effect, and basically you having to borrow money, you might be able to pay your bills, and then what it does is it transpires in this sort of relationship breakdown where your missus is fighting with you and giving you a hard time, you've lost the money, and then you get kicked out of the house and you're living on your man's sofa, you're drinking drink, and all of a sudden something like that can spiral completely out of control. So that's happening regularly in the men's game. And what football teams are going, right, all that's happening, what's our role? Our role's very simple. Our role is to basically be a listening ear and let people get stuff off their chest. Not acknowledge that we're not responsible if you lose £200-300 and your missus kicks you out and you're sleeping on your mummy's sofa. We're not responsible for that specific situation, but we do care about you as a player. We'll listen to you, we'll let you get stuff off your chest, and if we can signpost you to help and support. So if it's gambling issues, here, look, that's a bit out of control now. You've lost £200-300 and it's becoming a regular pattern, and you may have a bit of an addiction. Look, I recommend, do me a favour, go and connect with Gamblers Anonymous. Or if you're struggling with drug and alcohol, here's a wee service that's specially in that. Look, give them a call. Let them know that you're there for them, but don't take the responsibility of it on if it's not personally on you, because I'm sure a lot of players have vented to you in the past.
Yeah.
And I don't think what they realise is you have your own pressures and stresses.
Yeah.
When it comes to kids, peer pressure, alcohol, drugs, bullying, exam stress, again, what can clubs do about that? Except give it information and educate. I've always found that football in particular it'll benefit the majority, and I'll go on record now, it'll not benefit everybody, it'll benefit the majority, because taking team, you have 11 players that get on, that's 11 happy players. So it's 11 players you can connect with, engage with, that feel part of the club, feel connected to the club, and feel like they're getting the game time that they deserve. There's 2 or 3 get regular sub appearances, or when someone's injured, they step straight in. But within every club, there's 2 or 3 players, look at the kids game in particular, who don't get the same game time as everybody else. And then they'll start to feel excluded, they'll start to feel isolated, they'll start to feel that they're not part of a team and drift away. And that constantly comes up with clubs about what they would do about that. And my thing is, I didn't make football competitive. Did you make football competitive? No. So we have to make tough decisions when we're in sort of our management role. At the minute there's a trophy, a competition, or there's 3 points to play for. The decisions we make are ultimately for the benefit of the team to try and achieve that objective. And when you do that, then you leave people out. And that is a tough decision that has an impact on young people in particular across Northern Ireland, UK, across the world. But in Northern Ireland, that's part of the key reason why we have such a high dropout rate at sort of 13, 14, 15. Yeah. And it's no coincidence that is the dropout rate that when you go from small-sided games, equal game time, to competitive, South Belfast, Lisburn League, Middlesbrough League, all of a sudden, kids who were getting their 15 minutes or their 20-minute period get no time at all.
Yeah.
And coaches get a lot of stick and a lot of gripe about it, but it's a hard one when it comes to mental health and emotional well-being, because I don't advocate, I don't want to promote this, but it is a difficult thing. If you have a team and you're continually focused on development and giving everybody equal game time, and all of a sudden you're bringing on players that are perceived as a bit weaker, and you start losing games every week, you start losing players, and then all of a sudden your team goes down the tunnel very, very quick. And those decisions that you make do sadly have a negative impact on young people's mental health and emotional well-being. It's part of the reason I put my hands up why I sort of left my team. Was we were playing a game and we were winning 2-1, and it was it was tight game, and we had a player who wasn't sort of the best in the team, and I didn't want to make a decision that cost us that game. It was a cup quarter final, and I didn't put him on, but his daddy came on the pitch and threatened to beat the head of me. And afterwards, I get in the car, and my friend Mick, who's the other coach with me, I busted out crying because I'd never been, it's going to sound a bit sappy, but I'd never been subjected to that level of abuse where a parent came on the field to play. And then afterwards, I sort of felt like I work in mental health. I felt a detrimental impact on that young person's mental health for excluding him. I've been verbally sort of abused. I've never been verbally abused before, and I couldn't turn around and punch him or hit him because I'm standing there trying to show an example to young people, and I also have to think about my professional integrity. And at that stage, I realised that I'm not. That's not what I get in the football for. And I'm having a negative impact on someone's mental health and emotional well-being. And I'm happy doing what I do now, doing a bit of goalkeeper training. It's just basically I don't deal with parents. I deal with a very specific area, and it's something that I enjoy and I'm passionate about. So sometimes I feel sorry for coaches, and I know coaches across the board will basically have been subjected to some sort of verbal abuse in the past about the decisions they make. I think more needs to be done around helping us as coaches in the coaching capacity to better promote our mental health and emotional well-being, and to understand that within the confines of our boundaries, certain decisions are made that will negatively impact on others, but we need to basically put a black and white sort of structure and basically turn around and say, look, if you're a competitive coach, you're going for 3 points, you leave people out. The key is communicating to the kids why they're being left out and what that looks like. And I'm actually going to try and do a bit of work around that, because the worst thing is a kid sitting there or a player sitting there thinking that they're left out because they're not liked. That's not the case. They're left out there because you've made a decision that you feel is best for the collective that's having a detrimental impact on an individual. So there's a bit of work there that I'm going to probably have to work on, because it's came up time and time again through workshops we've delivered.
It's something that I was aware of when I was a youth coach. It's always hard to juggle. I always thought of myself as a developmental coach, where I was trying to promote players, and I always said that when those kids are 18, 19, they can walk up to me in a bar and shake my hand and say, thanks very much for the time you give, and they're decent people, then you've done your job. Whereas you do have the guys who just want to win. And if you create footballers out of it and you win trophies while also developing people and players, then great. When I moved into senior football, it's something that you sort of forget about, is that can still affect people in senior football. It's not just kids, like the guy being left out all the time. And then when it comes to senior football, there's always the banter, the slagging. It could be the same person getting it because maybe they're not getting picked. And then that's you making a decision not to pick him. So then you're kind of creating that atmosphere. So it can be a tough thing to juggle. You actually do have a lot of pressures as a coach.
100% pressure as a coach, but back to what I said at the start, you've 11 and potentially 13 within a panel of 15 that you can really genuinely make a difference on in terms of raising awareness of mental health and emotional well-being. Because if they feel part of something, they feel connected to something. So if they feel part of it and connected to Ford, when Ford start to promote mental health awareness, start to educate them, and start to give them some information and have subtle conversations before or after training, that's the thing that'll make a difference. I always give the example of Brian Cooker, 22nd boys, good friend of mine. The way they did their mental health stuff was before or after training, they went in and says, right guys, here's some information. Just make yourselves aware of it. Could be suicide awareness, depression, how to look after your mental health. Have a quick conversation about it. while they're all sitting in the changing room, and then have a bit of crack and a bit of banter back and forth about it. I've never recorded one of those, and I'm glad I never will, because it'll probably be a few explicits. But it was proven to be effective because it was a message from the club to the club. It was done in a very informal way. It wasn't additional. That's a key thing when it comes to working with clubs. So if I was trying to get you to do Tuesday night, Thursday night training, and then match the Saturday night, saying, I want you to come to a big workshop on Friday. People don't realise what's probably going to happen on the Friday is their missus are going to turn and say, well, what about your kids? You haven't seen them this week. You've been working all week. You've been at football. You're going to give up an hour night. You might just want to chill because you've been flat out in work. And you've been stressed to the hell and you want a bit of time. Oh, I have to go and do a mental health workshop. But if I can get you on the Tuesday and I can get you on the Thursday while you're already there and get some information to you and just drift feed it to you, give you a couple of weeks later, give you a bit more. We found that that's more effective to engage with clubs than a 3-hour workshop. Hi, I'm Joe, mental health awareness, box ticked, and you never do anything again. Yeah. Because if I do that, the research shows that if I do a one-off workshop, 8 weeks later, you'll forget about it. 8 weeks later, it'll be out of your head. You might remember 1 or 2 things from it, but the vast majority of it, because there's no reinforcement, there's no backup, it is literally a box tick. The sad reality when it comes to mental health in sport, it has been a box tick approach, and I refuse now to do that. I try and develop a relationship with clubs. Like I said, I'm looking forward to working with Ford, but you'll not see me once. You'll see me again. You'll see our resources continually. And when you start to drift feed that, you've 1 in 5 potential issues around mental health. They might just one day when they get some information go, do you know what? I have an issue, or this piece of information you just give me connects to me. Can I talk to you after? And that's what we've found with some of the clubs that are doing really effective work, the likes of St Patrick's FC in the New Lodge, 22nd, Ballyhinch. The wee sort of easy, nicey approach of continually doing stuff while people are there, Tuesday night, Thursday night, rather than let's do another Friday night, let's do a Sunday. The only additional stuff clubs should do is big football competitions and tournaments where football is at the heart of it, because it's not that hard to do. Theme it around mental health, bring all the mental health charities together, and people can get information around the stalls at the side while they're playing the sport that they love. Because if you take the football out of it, it removes the whole connection. Football is the biggest hook to get people engaged. Like I said, back to the thing I said about 13 to 15, if you have about 80%, if the work that you're doing is affecting 80% of your players, mainly males too. We're not exclude the ladies football for any ladies on this, but males don't talk, right? That's the statistic. It's 74% of suicides, for example. People who do it are not known to local services, so they're just basically people who've been affected by a social situation that's completely spiraled out of control, and sadly they're not with us anymore. Men don't talk. But in a football environment, if we're encouraging help-seeking behaviour, if we're challenging, as you said, about if a player is being left out, people are making fun of them. If we're challenging that sort of language and behaviour and saying, look, guys, it sounds funny now, but you don't know the impact that can have on someone. And if people understand that, then they're more respectful. If we can do that through the football environment, then we will make a massive, massive difference, because I'm sure you grew up when you played, you still play, Gary, do you?
No, mate, I was retired at 16. Too many injuries, and also very bad as well.
That's my retirement. Yes. Right.
Oh, no.
Right. So I have no tendon at all, and that one goes right back to. So that's why I don't play no more, because my hands.
I might need to suggest to people now you're better listening to this than a podcast that rather than YouTube if you've got a weak stomach.
Do you ever watch Alien?
Yeah.
You ever seen the face hooker? Right. That's my hand. But mangled when I play it. But what I'm getting at is we were brought up, get up and get on with it.
Yeah.
Football, true. You're blasted in the face, you get kicked all over the place, get up and get on with it. If you cried in football whenever I played, you would have got the back completely ripped out of you. Mm-hmm. But now we've a role as sort of coaches for kids coming up, for example, they encourage help-seeking behaviour. They turn around and say to them, look, guys, why are you not at yourself, or don't be afraid to open up and talk. Tell me, there's the wee thing that's on the IFA, the Ask Sport. sort of acronym, which is how I look out for people's mental health. So think about the teams that the people that you work with. So the many players in your senior team, 15, and say you coach a kid, club, say you coach 15 kids and you've got 15 in your senior team.
Yeah.
So you'll be looking out for awareness for 2 weeks or more. Are the players not at themselves? Why 2 weeks? For a week you can be sick. I mean, you could be on holiday, you could be away with the missus, you could have work commitments. It's 100%. You can miss training for a week. 2 weeks, you put a wee phone call in saying, look, why are you not here? Haven't seen you. They could come back and say something is rational as, look, I'm flat out and working for us. They've got a couple of deadlines I have to make, or of a 2 week illness of COVID-19, unfortunately. Yeah. And I'm having the isolate, which you might get whenever football starts back.
Yeah.
But that's perfectly fine. But after 2 weeks, if we don't see a player, I know as a coach, I would have phoned, hello, look, where's me GMG? He's not here today. Find out why. Ideally, the person, if you're phoning an adult, you're talking to an adult straight away, you'll hopefully get a straight answer. If you're phoning, you have to phone a parent to get the access to the kid, but hopefully you can get the kid in front of you to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
But when they are there, it could be, we call S for sport social isolation. So what does it look like in football? I've seen it firsthand where there's kids not coming or there's players not coming. So they're isolating themselves. There might be a reason, find out why. They could be there. Have you ever seen a player that's there but they're not there?
Yeah, they just look like they're thinking about something completely else.
The day we met in Cosby, you've said there's a few players that come in that there's issues going on in the background. So therefore, when they come in, they haven't left their baggage at the door. They haven't left everything. They've brought it onto the field of play. So they're in the changing room. They're just completely void. They're training. There's minimal to no effort. If they're playing a match, someone scores a goal. There's no sort of passion to celebrate, to get involved in it, and that should be a trigger to ask the question: are you all right? Why are you doing this? The first response you're always going to get is, "I'm dead on. I'm fine."
Yeah.
But then you go back and say, "Well, look here. I've noticed like you're sitting there with your face tripping. They've scored a goal. You're not celebrating. You're not focused. You're not on your game because last week you were on fire. This week you're not sort of at it." It's about picking up on that. Behind every behaviour, there's something that's triggering it. The next one for sport is physical health. So you can have people who are all of a sudden losing a lot of weight. You can have people who are gaining a lot of weight. You can have men who are run down scruffy, hard, stinking under the armpits. I mean, again, there could be a rational explanation. They're just out of work, they haven't had time to get home and get changed. They've just come straight to football, 100%. But if it's persistently they're coming to training and they're coming to football and they're completely unkempt and they look run down and ragged, that should be sort of a flag to a bull with them and say, come here, what's happening? The next one's obvious changes. So I've seen it firsthand. I've heard of a story about the fella who broke down crying to the coach. I'm sure you've had that too. Fellas open up, tell you just they've obviously made it that there's something wrong and there's something on their mind and they've put it out there, be it crying, be it teary, be it reacting the wrong way, which we'll move on to next. But looking out for that, and the thing about that is the men's football teams get it there. It's when if someone is reacting that way, if they are teary and they are really down, it's not turning around and busting out laughing at them and making fun of them, right?
Yeah.
Which has happened in teams before, which then creates the sort of, I don't want to ask for help, I don't want to ask for support because they're just going to make fun of me. That's part of the thing you need to challenge. But if we see that happen, it's about being sympathetic. It's about pulling the player to the side and saying, look, if your head's not in the game, set it out, stay involved in the training, have a conversation with me before training, if they come you can pick up on it, or have a conversation with me after. Give me 20 minutes after, we'll go for a cup of tea and we'll talk it out. And 9 times out of 10 an obvious change is something that's really bad's happened. So the most I've seen is men that have had a big fight or a big relationship breakdown with their missus or their partner, and it's come into the field of play where they've went to football to get their head shot because they've just had a big fight, and then they want to just get it off their chest. And the worst thing we can do is I just ditch her, get rid of her, right? Just listen, be sympathetic, and listen to what they've got to say, let them get it off their chest, and don't give any sort of immediate advice and guidance or saying post at the minute until you know where they are, because it could be that they just want to talk about it. They're not really made of danger. If someone has something you've picked up on a saying, doesn't mean they're suicidal or they want to end their life. It just means they're going through a bit of a hard time and they need a listening ear. The next one is reacting the wrong way, right? Now, how many times have you seen a man walk onto the football field, do a big dirty tackle or throw a big punch?
Yeah. And straight away you're thinking, what's going through his head? What's he doing?
And that happens time and time again at all levels. It happens in the kids' game where the players come in, they've had an argument or fight with their mum, they've had their PlayStation took off them, their phone took off them, and they come out and they take it out on the other players, or they come out and take it out in the opposition. In the men's team, this is an example I know for a fact. A fellow lost 400 quid on a horse, one of the best players, right? Went to play a match. Because he's one of the best players, what does the manager do? The manager knew he lost 400 quid in the horse, and he was fuming and he was angry. What does the manager do?
Straight away say, forget about it.
Just do play, just focus on the game, right? 5 minutes in the game, 2-foot red card off, right? Now, in that situation, what should have happened was, come here, you lost like 400 quid on the horse or lose it. Aye. What way do you feel? You look fuming, you look angry. You're not going to go on here and do something stupid. And then try and get into the mindset to change it. He just let him take that anger straight on the field. I don't know, maybe he thought, he's going to go on here and play like a demon because he's on fire, he's angry, he's going to strike. No, he went and just punched the players. Well, all of a sudden, you lose your best player for, was it 6 games for failing conduct, is it?
Yeah.
Right, so you lose your best player for 6 games for failing conduct. You knew finally at the start of the game he lost 400 quid on the horse. He should have been pulled aside and told, no, as you said there, you calm down. When you're ready, you go on. And then it would have been a better outcome. But that's what's happening. Players react the wrong way, but behind the behaviour, there's something that's triggered that. So his reaction, his bad behaviour was because he lost the money in the horse. The fella did have a gambling addiction. Thankfully, the club put measures in place to sort of support him, the access services. Is he in a better place at the minute? Yes. Is he at risk of basically going off the boil again? Yes. But the club put measures in place because they understood, rather than go right your bond for 6 weeks, don't come back, don't come near us. The manager made the wrong decision at the time that I'm on the field of play. Thankfully, someone in the committee outside of that had the common sense to turn around and say, come here, you, what's going on? What's happening? They found out that he lost roughly about sort of 6 or 7 grand between that over the course of sort of 6 months. And he was having difficulties with his home life, difficulties with his family that would be triggered by it because bills needed to be paid and money was borrowed and all of a sudden it was spiraling out of control. Thankfully, the club had him get in a better footing, so it had to be welcome. But it took someone outside to make that decision. The manager should never let him on the field of play. The next one you look out for that we're all familiar with most of the time is tough times. So what would you do if a player loses someone that they love? So someone passes away. What would the club response be?
The first response would be you would normally send a wreath, probably put it in Surgeon in the paper. A few people, committee members, players would probably attend the funeral, and then normally it's just a case of waiting for them to come back, really, and then that's it.
But in a nutshell, as a club, you're there for the player.
Yeah.
There's support from the player, there's support within the club, there's support within the player's circle of friends. I think that's one of the most valuable things a club has. When someone goes through tough times, that a club rallies and supports them. So I lost my stepfather to suicide in 2014 when I went full time on TAMHI, and it was tough. He lost his biological son. He was in a fight in the town, cracked, punched, hit his head off a pavement. Life support machine all turned off, and the ultimate thing is he ended up taking his life. And it's a different mindset when you lose someone. I lost Thomas to suicide. You're on the outside looking in. This was basically you're on the inside. You're seeing the devastation to my mum, my family, and it was heartbreaking. But the one thing I always remember was I was coaching St. Pat's at the time. Is the support from the club, and the wee guard of honour, the wee stand at the gate, the representation. the players coming from the kids that you taught.
Yeah.
And you always look back on it and you go, that goes to show that they respected you, they followed you as a person, and the impact you had on them. So that's what I mean by when someone's going through a tough time, it's not just about me as sort of the coach supporting the players. It's about everybody supporting each other during those difficult, challenging times. So that was really, really what you just described is what you would do. And I've seen it firsthand because I've had it. A club rally around support you, be represented, but there's nothing more rewarding. As you said, it says you want a player to come up and shake your hand a couple of years down the line and say you made a difference for me. When you walk outside that door going through one of the most difficult times of my life, and you see all the players, the parents, no, it really is. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's clubs. And that's the value of clubs. And your ones is the exams. When kids are going through exams, it's about us supporting them to turn around and say to them, look, you're going through this difficult period, and get some information, tell them about how to better revise or how to look after their mental health during sort of exam time. Try and relieve the pressure of them, because football is their escape during that time. And then the other one is the most difficult ones is sometimes because of the mask, we can't spot if someone's going through a tough time. We might hear on the grapevine, and here's the thing, what I recommend is, if you hear in the grapevine, so the best one is Everglow, which is the Ben Manigan committee, representatives from each section of the team. So if anybody within that club says something untoward about their mental health, emotional well-being, or something just triggers me, oh, what's that? I've heard him mention sort of he's a bit down. They go and speak to the 4 or 5 person committee. They then turn and say, well, look, he's involved in yourself, go and have a chat with him. And that's even the wee subtle thing. We need to be looking out for each other, because we can all put a mask on, but if we pay attention and you hear one of your players going through a tough time, but you've heard it through another player.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, because you've heard it through another player, you're just, I'll stick my head in the sand. If you hear it, even if it turns out to be nothing, if you hear one of your players going through a difficult time from another player, James, he's down a bit because he had a fight with his missus, or one of his kids broke his leg or something. You've heard it from another player, go and speak to James yourself, saying, look, I've just overheard something. You're right, just to let you know that I'm there, occurring. If you want to come and talk to me later on it's good to say that because it's on your terms, not you must talk to me now, come and speak to me later. You might get that sort of the buy-in that they feel whenever they feel there's nobody there for them, that somebody does care. And everybody will go through tough times. I've went through tough times, I'm sure. You've gone through difficult, challenging times. Life, we don't live in a bubble. Life throws us curveballs. It's just so much up and downs, and it's about sort of supporting each other through it. Like I says, if you've got 80% of your club feel connected, feel supported, and supporting each other, and you'll have a far better sort of mental health support structure in place. People will feel more confident talking about what's on their mind early, because we'll go back to the gambling one. If you lose £200 or £300 in the bookies once, you've lost £200 or £300 in the bookies once. That's a small problem. You won't speak to someone about it and they tell you ways up. Look, maybe don't let it get out of control. Refer to a fiver's fun.
Yeah.
Right. But if you keep sitting on it and losing £400 or £500 on a weekly basis,
Jason, it
becomes a big, massive, massive problem. And unfortunately, we can do our bit around signposting and connecting, but we can't give someone £5,000-6,000 back. We can give them support services, but we can help them if they lose £100-200, 100%. We can get them through that difficult time. But that's what I mean. When a wee problem's a wee problem, we create an environment where we can talk about it when it's a wee problem. It may never escalate to a big one.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to achieve, I'm trying to do through TAMHI, is trying to get clubs to put the supportive infrastructure in place where people are better educated about mental health and emotional well-being, so they know what it is, they know how to deal with it, they know how to basically promote it. It doesn't mean they're going to do it, because there's a raft of information about physical health, but we still eat and drink and party and go nuts. But we know that if we eat our 5 a day, we exercise 30 minutes a week, we'll have a better sort of physical health. We know that. some of us don't do it, but we've enough information there, and we're all sort of savvy enough to know if we want to basically get in shape, we must go to the gym, we must do X, Y, and Z. But when it comes to mental health, if we want to have good mental health, what should we do? And what I'm trying to achieve is trying to get clubs to understand that it's not complicated. Here's what you can do, not what you must do. Here's what you can do if you want better mental health, and then put the choice firmly at the feet of the clubs and the players to be better equipped to make those choices if they want. If they don't, they don't. But essentially, what I would love every club to have is a pathway of support in place where every player feels confident. If they're feeling a bit lower, felt a bit down, that they can talk to someone. They won't be made fun of or judged, as we alluded to. And they will, the person who they're talking to will have someone in the background, a professional service who they can immediately contact and debrief to, and make the relationship between them and the player who potentially needs help. But like I said, it's not always they're going to need professional service. They may have just had a bad day and they just want to get stuff off their chest, and they want to have a listening ear. And a listening ear is someone that just listens, as I said. It's not someone who's going to turn around and say, I've had a big, I've come home from work, or I wanted to go to football. My wife was on my back, giving me a hard time, doing my head in, and I had a big blowout with her, and I've come to football. I'm not ready for my mind to play tonight. But someone to be there and listen, not someone to turn around and say, you know what, my eyes up, ditch her, leave her, get rid of her. But someone just to come in with something completely unhelpful. Just let someone vent. Sometimes venting and getting stuff off her chest is just as valuable as for mental health. It's one of the most valuable things for mental health, getting stuff off her chest. Because if it's off her chest, it's not building up in there, accumulating, oh, I fit her, I'm going to go home and I'm blah, blah, blah. Once you get it off your chest, you may calm down. You may send a wee text message after and say, no, I'm sorry, love, just been busy today, blah, blah, blah. But if you let it keep building up and escalate, then that's when everything spirals out of control.
Yeah, I feel at the moment with the COVID-19 pandemic, it's even more important to try and stay in touch with your players, because you don't have that release of coming to football and getting together as a group. We're working on the taglines this week with Mental Health Week of we're here with an ear, I care and I'm there, and always it's okay not to be okay. What do you feel clubs can be doing differently to try and keep people involved during the COVID-19 pandemic to try and make sure that we're always on top of the mental health situation?
I think it's new ground for everybody. I've been blown away by clubs' community effort, and I think if any club has the skill set and able bodies that basically help volunteer and support the local community, I think that's welcomed. The challenges, if we look at kids teams, a lot of clubs are basically implementing these sort of skills challenges and competitions and YouTube videos, which is really, really brilliant to see. And that's really rewarding because kids are still being engaged and kids are still taking part, and the coaches are still maintaining the connection, because the big danger is we can have a really massive dropout if people don't feel that they are connected to their club.
Yeah.
Clubs have just went quiet, so we've got the quizzes, the bingos, they're all welcome. Now, I know I'm not advocating gambling, okay, but I think I've seen a lot of men's teams do the sort of online poker.
Yeah, we've done it as well, yeah.
Right. I think it's if you're having a friendly sort of game and you're losing 10, 20 quid to your mates once, twice a week, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
If it's keeping people engaged, it's fun, it's interactive. There's always slagging in the bars, because I play it myself. I play Poker Brothers with a few of my mates, 10 a week, it's no harm.
Yeah.
And the banter and crack you still feel like you're part of something, even though you're physically not playing. The one thing I think a lot of clubs need to do is trying to make sure that their players are exercising or staying as fit as they physically can. So it's a challenge for clubs to look at, because I know some players are just basically sitting telling the bops and
happy days. Just
do
nothing.
You're going to come back and you're going to go, right, spot, right, so you've socialized yourself, right? Your physical health went out the roof because you're scruffy and you've put a load of weight on because you've been sitting in the clubs. Right? I know you're going through tough times because it's COVID-19, and it's completely obvious that you're not the same player you were when you left here sort of 2-3 months ago. But there's a bit of work to encourage clubs to get their players to stay physically active, because football will come back. I don't know when, but it will come back, and it's essential that they hit the ground running. The other thing is I've been talking to a lot of coaches who are starting to realise, after all this time that they've always been committed to coaching, the amount of free time that they've actually had.
Big time.
And
I started a podcast.
but the thing about it is they may not want to go back to football because they didn't realise the commitment that they've put into it, because they've never been used to anything else. So there's challenges ahead for clubs around that. Now, what I'm advocating and what I'm trying to promote is take this time for your club to make it better internally. The one thing clubs sort of struggle with is finances and money and grants. Right? Does that be fair enough? Would you find that?
Yeah, even now with the pandemic, we still, just before all this happened, we get bills in and you're going, how do you pay these things?
So it's looking at your structure and looking at sort of potential income streams and revenues down the line, and your governance and your capacity. I know it's going to sound boring, but
it's necessary.
I'll space it up a bit. If you have your house in order, and see when it comes to mental health, I told you at the start, men don't talk.
Yeah.
So the football team wants to put in for a mental health project that engages 50 men who, according to all the public health agency records, don't talk. They can't turn around and say you're talking BS, because you've 50 men, that's your registered members. You can do a project that just happens to need football as the hook to get them in, and you can promote positive mental health and emotional well-being and encourage men to talk. You're not lying, you're telling the truth, and all of a sudden you have an extra string to your bow that you're doing a bit of additionality to complement the football service. So you have an engaged audience, you know mental health is an issue, and you want to address it. Funders can't turn around and argue against that because it's factually correct.
Yeah.
I've used to work in funding, and the amount of application forms you get where, oh, we're going to get 500 people. Where are you getting them from? The street. Do you know what I mean? Randomly on the street to take part in mental health. The number was just fabricated to basically make it look good. If you have a membership and you're putting it, you're black and white, that's how many people we serve, that's how many meals we can engage. It opens up opportunities. And that's your steer club. Every other club can have the same thing. As I said at the start, you've an engaged audience. You've a bunch of people that want to be there. And if they want to be there, when the message about mental health comes, they're more likely to connect with it than in an environment where they don't want to be. So mental health tends to be ruled out more predominantly in the workplace. Realistically, I like work. I love my job and passionate about it. But when I worked in an office, I didn't mind it. But I didn't want to do mental health in it because I wanted to do my work, because I needed to do it. When I'm in school, I want to do my schoolwork and get out. And that's what kids are telling us. They want to go in, take part in schoolwork and get out. So whereas mental health bolted on there, and I said it's mental health. Someone sitting talking on a PowerPoint and they're sitting on their phones.
Yeah.
In a football environment, you're there. Tuesday night, Thursday night, here's some information about mental health. 5 minutes. Oh, that's just good. Conversation. A couple of weeks later, not all the time because that's overkill. Get better information. See if we can get in that their mindset of clubs, start to drip feed stuff and put stuff out on a regular basis and put it annually. Then we're going to make a change in attitudes. We're going to make a change in help-seeking behaviour. We're going to inspire people to reach out and tell stories. I want more stories from clubs to turn around and say that in Ford, one of your players opens up and speaks to you. You help him. He then shares it, because we don't get enough yet. Everybody reaches out and asks for help. We know in the background we've helped people, but they don't come to the forefront and say I was going through a difficult, hard time.
It's one of the things, you don't know statistics of lives you have saved.
You
don't. You only hear the negative.
All the losses are all over the place. They get over the papers. They just get put out there. So when you lose someone, it's out there. When you save someone, the only thing you get a wee text message randomly saying, "Thank you very much for what you did for me. I'm in a better place now." And that's a story you'd love to tell, but unfortunately you can't tell because of reasons. And I'm grateful for the fact that yes, we've lost people. The work that we do, we can't save everyone. We try our best, but certain circumstances beyond our control, we can't mitigate against, and sadly people have been lost. But thankfully, loads and loads and loads of people have been saved. Loads and loads of people have reached out, got help, got support, and are now in a better place because of not only the work we do, but the work that sort of organisations do across Northern Ireland. So North Belfast Lighthouse, PIPS, the World Food Depression, Action Mental Health, all these groups do amazing work across Northern Ireland, and they're saving people's lives on a daily basis. Some stories will come out, they're few and far between. In the sport environment, you only get the high profile ones. So Chris Kerr's is a brilliant story. Have you heard his story?
Yeah, I know Chris personally, yeah, top fella.
So he's a friend of mine. I just seen the day Liam Hemphy, GAA, he would be a friend of mine I used to work with from Sport Online. His story is powerful. Oisin McConville's story. But these are all sort of the higher profile guys. If you look at our Facebook, did you see Dixie from St Patrick's FC tell his story?
No, I haven't seen it.
I recommend to go on and have a wee look at the TAMHI Facebook page, and you'll see from St Patrick's FC, Dixie, he lost one of his under 11 players with heart condition.
Right.
So this is a player he had from age 4 up until age 10, and he had a heart condition, and sadly, after an operation, he passed away. And the devastation that it caused him as a coach, because like an adaptive son, you know yourself, when you invest that much time in them, and the devastation it caused to the players, and the impact it had on his mental health. And then he tells a story, which is a personal story. And he phoned me, he said he phoned me, and I was able to connect with service and stuff. But that's a real powerful story about a coach, the loss of a player, the impact it had, and ultimately the thing is he reached out, he got help, he's got support, and he's in a better place. And their stories are few and far between, but the more and more stories we can get out like that, the more we can inspire club people to turn around and say, you know what, I can tell my story, I can reach out, I can ask for help, but it's more important that the club have the infrastructure in place to support that. Because if they don't, then I always say message, it's okay to talk, it's okay to ask for help. They're brilliant messages, but if someone doesn't listen, if the club are there and don't care, if they don't have a listening ear and they're just going to judge or just dismiss you, then it's pointless. You may as well talk to a brick wall. So you need to change the culture in the club to get them ready to listen, not take on responsibility, just listen and to connect and saying post. So that's what I'm aiming to try and achieve through all the work that I do.
Joe, thank you very much for all of that. Thank you very much for giving up your time. Hopefully, through this message, obviously this podcast is meant to be interviews with local players, but it's such an important time and it's such an important subject that hopefully any players or coaches out there who are listening or watching this can take something from it, and hopefully long term it will save somebody's life. But I really appreciate you giving up your time, and thank you so much. Thanks for listening to the podcast, everybody. The He Doesn't Want a Podcast, sponsored by Learners or Us and Drumbo Racecourse. We'll be back next week with another interview. Everyone stay safe. Thanks very much. Bye.